Hi folks, Speedway Tag here with another button shy game that I only just recently got. Newly in print, Mint Julep. It's a horse racing game. Of course, button shy games comes in these lovely little wallets. Oops, I've just wrecked my whole starting setup there. That's alright. I can fix that. And they come in these beautiful wallets. Okay, well printed. The title on the front. Usually about only 18 cards, and it's a horse racing game, and that attracted me straight away, which is why I've been trying to get this one for a long time. It was out of print for a long time, and now it's back. I just love the whole theme of horse racing. I've never really found the perfect horse racing board game yet. To be honest, I still have my old Totopoly from back in the 70s, which probably is still my favorite. Crazily enough, but button shy mixed with horse racing, I just had to have it. So finally managed to get myself a copy. Just arrived last week. Mint Julep. The significance of the title intrigued me, and after a bit of research, I realized. Now you guys are probably already screaming at me, thinking, "How could you not know what that means?" It's a cocktail which is associated with the Kentucky Derby in the United States. And so there's a little bit of my general knowledge I learned. And it's a great name for a game. The back of the cards look like that, which is really nice, as the front of the rule book is like that as well. Your typically nice button shy printed rule book. This rule book probably is a little bit sparse on specific rules, so you might need to do a little bit more research on learning to play the game with this one. Not everything seems to be covered in the rules as normal, but that's okay. You can work it out and get playing the game pretty quickly from looking at the forums on Board Game Geek, on the Discord or something like that. And so, Mint Julep, it's a 2 to 4 player game. It's played over 3 rounds, and it is a horse race. And were they able to create the feeling of a horse race with 18 cards? I think they did. Well, they being Dan Letzring. So well done to the designer Dan there, because I think this is beautifully designed, plays really well, and this is how it plays. At the moment, I've set up for a 2-player game. And we each end up with 6 cards to start the round. Now, how did we end up with 6 cards? That's a part that I won't be able to show you. But there's a draft at the start, okay? It's literally take a card, pass the pile over to the next person, take a card, pass the pile over to the next person. A little bit rejigging required with a 2-player game, but in the end, it's a draft, and we end up with 6 cards each. And 1 put aside, which we don't know. Well, we might forget what it was. Okay, so we got 6 cards, and then we got then we have to place a bet, right? We have to at least bet on 1 horse. In a 2-player game, you can bet on 2, but generally it's better with just 1. So I might look down here, and okay, so the cards during the race, it's what's printed on the white portion that will affect what's happening in the race. Around the edge of the card, the color bits is the name of the horse, and that's used for betting. So I might decide to bet on Whiskey Princess, and you can see there. Come on now, you can. There we go. Right, round 1, Whiskey Princess. So I'm gonna bet on Whiskey Princess, and it's turned up this way because it's round 1. The reason why round 1 is written there on that card is because in round 2 or round 3 you're allowed to change your bet. If you think Whiskey Princess is struggling a little bit and is probably not going to make it into the top 3, you can change your bet in round 2. If you do that, you just turn your you can get rid of Whiskey Princess and put another card instead, another horse instead, but then you flip it to so it says round 2. So let's say I swap Maple Splendor for Whiskey Princess as my bet, but placing a late bet in round 2, I lose a point. Placing a late bet in round 3, I lose 2 points. very significant. So you have to really think carefully whether you really want to place a late bet or not, or whether you try to boot the first guy home that you bet on. Because there's not many points on offer in this game. You'll end up with 2, 3, maybe 4 points to win the game. So to lose 2 points because you're putting a late bet in round 3, not a great idea. So if you can boot your original bet home, that's the best way to go. So in round 1, we take one of our 6 cards as a bet. Let's say my opponent decides that she's going to bet on Newton's apple. Okay, so what the rest of the game is like typical race games, minuscule and the hare and the tortoise and things like that. You are trying to use your cards to program and get your horse to the front by the end of 3 rounds. Okay, that's simple as that. The horses all start in a standard starting lineup, which is basically alphabetical, but you can mix them up later if you want to. In the end, you win the game by having the most points at the end, and there's only really 2 ways to get points, and that is you get points based on where your horse originally started. You'll see that here in the rule book there, right there. Okay, so if your horse started first, you get 0 extra points if it wins. But if your horse started 5th, which is you got me, right? If your horse started 5th and wins, you will receive another 2 points, okay? Or even come 2nd or 3rd, right? I think. If your horse started 3rd, you'll get 1 point, and so on. So the starting positions get you points, and of course at the very end of the game, the finishing points are like that. Okay, first place 3 points, second place 2 points, third place 1 point. And so if you've bet on the first place getter, you'll get 3 points plus the bonuses for where they started. And that's how you get points. How does a turn go? Okay, all our cards are basically these programming cards, and there's one different card, which is the Mint Julep card, which I'll explain in a moment, and one of you will get it each round, hopefully. Okay, so the horses move. This is how they move. I'll just give you a classic example. Look at this card. Right? If I'm going first, this tells me I can move Newton's apple one space, or really that means, see there's 1 arrow there, so it's 1 space. The way that 1 space translates is I take Newton's apple, okay, and I move it to the next group. Now there's no group there at the moment, okay, so it's hard to do with one hand. There we go. There's no group there at the moment. Newton's apple just moves forward 1 and starts a new group of its own. So I'll just move that up to show that I've moved Newton's apple. Okay, if this, I don't know why I would move Newton's apple, because as you can see my opponent has bet on Newton's apple, but just for the sake of the so you can see how the cards actually work. This person is very happy that I've stupidly moved her horse forward. So this is when we start to manipulate where the other horses will place themselves. Okay, so this card here says any leading horse forward 2. Okay, so the 2 leading horses we have on offer at the moment is Alaskan Justice and Newton's Apple, because a leading horse is one that's at the front of a group. Alaskan Justice is at the front of this group, and Newton's Apple is at the front of, in inverted commas, this group, right? So they might play, let's see, they might actually play any leading horse, okay, that one, forward 1. So now, you might think, well, why wouldn't they move Newton's apple forward 1 and get even further ahead? Can't do that because we can't have gaps like that. So they're going to move this leading horse forward 1. Now, when they move from one group to another, as that card says 1 arrow, 1 space, they automatically go to the front of the group. Okay, so now we've got 2 groups. Right, so anytime a horse moves to another group, it goes to the front of a group. Anytime a horse moves backwards, like that card is saying move any horse backwards, it still ends up at the front of a group, but backwards, obviously. Okay, so then here, what we've got here. Remember, this person has bet, or I've bet on Whiskey Princess, so I'm trying to manipulate using my cards to try and get Whiskey Princess a little bit further. So, if I can get Maple Splendor forward, that'll leave Whiskey Princess as a leader of a group, which makes it a lot easier for me to move Whiskey Princess, because as you can see, most of the cards talk about moving leading horses, okay? Leading horses, any leading horse. So if you can get your horse to a front of a group, even if it's further back in one of the back end groups, if it's at the front of a group, you've got a good chance of getting it moving. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move Maple Splendor forward, like this. We'll go to the front of the next group. Now that leaves Whiskey Princess at the front of a group, which makes it easier for me to move her, unless this person realizes that and tries to and sabotage that. Okay, but they're going to move Alaskan Justice forward one, see? So that's a forward one icon. So we find Alaskan Justice wherever it is. It's here. It can move one. Now we've got 3 groups of horses. This feels like a race, and this is what I was saying before. Even though there's no track, there's no dice rolling, you know, there's no track. But as these horses move in and out of groups, and then one boots out in front there and one drops back, it really does feel like like horses jostling for position in a race. I think that's very, very well done. Okay, back to me. I'd love to get Whiskey Princess now moving forward a little bit more. And look at this. This card allows me to send any leading horse forward 2. So I'm going to do that. Whiskey Princess is a leading horse because it's in front of a group, and I can go 1, 2 and move it 2 places, and it goes there. That's pretty good. So that took me 2 planned turns to get my horse in the front, but you know, these guys can do anything. The opponent can do anything to thwart that, and they're going to play this card that says any horse backward 1. Okay, so they're going to take my Whiskey Princess and put it back 1. Remember, going backwards, you still end up at the front of a group. Okay, time to use the Mint Julep card. Whoever's got the Mint Julep card plays it, and they are allowed access now to the abilities on any horses that are showing. So any abilities that are showing, move a horse to the bottom of its group, swap 2 adjacent groups of horses, move 2 or more horses forward in a group. So when you play the Mint Julep card, you have access to those abilities on the cards, which is really, really nice. So I'm actually going to use this ability, swap 2 adjacent group of horses. These are 2 adjacent groups, so I'm going to swap them, which gets Whiskey Princess to the front. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, and then this person might say, let's see, might push You Got Me. Don't forget, this person bet on Newton's apple, so you know, they really want Newton's apple free. He's stuck there on the rails there, third, and it's quite hard to get him out. But hopefully, remember, this game goes for 3 rounds, so hopefully in the next 2 rounds he's able to move Newton's apple out of there with his cards. Or, as we mentioned earlier, he might change his bet, take the penalty of 1 point, and change his bet. Okay, so here we go. He's gonna move You Got Me forward 1. So You Got Me will go there. I'll play my last card, which is any leading horse 1 and any leading horse backwards. So I'm going to move Whiskey Princess forward there, and I'll move You Got Me backwards. We've got now 4 groups of horses running, so spaced out a little bit. Really nice. All right, and this last card here is any leading horse forward 2. Okay, that's interesting. So this person might take Alaskan Justice and put it in front of me to mess me up. Okay, that brings us back to 3 groups of horses. Okay, there we go. round's over, right? We've played all our cards. At this point, we'd just play another round. We'd collect up all the cards here. Okay, collect them all up. We'd do another draft. We'd end up with however many cards to make it even. And then we've got our option to change our bet, as I said. And the person who goes first in the next round is the person who has a horse that they've bet on closest to the front. Okay, so because I've got Whiskey Princess and she's got Newton's Apple, Whiskey Princess is ahead of Newton's Apple, so I would go first. There's a mechanism built into the game, very clever, where if both of you have bet on the same horse, which is possible, there are, as you can see, letters at the top of these cards. So if we've both bet on the same horse, the person with the A will go before the person with the B card. And that's how it works. Look, I think you come into games like this expecting to be messed up. You can plan as much as you like with the cards in your hand and think, okay, if I play this card, that's going to get Whiskey Princess here. Then I'm going to play this card and I'm going to move Alaskan Justice backwards, so that'll free up Whiskey Princess to go even further. My opponent's got Newton's Apple, so my next card I can move Newton's Apple back further. And you think, oh wow, you know, I've got this great program all set out. And then they get to play, you know, and they're planning too. And then just what they do completely messes up what you've been planning. You have to go into these games expecting that. If you don't like that sort of thing, you're probably not going to get a game like this. But sometimes some folks just don't mind that. And I'm 50-50. Sometimes I do mind that. Sometimes I don't mind it. So I got this game regardless, because I know a lot of the time I'm going to enjoy it. I just want a relaxed experience just playing a game. And if someone's messing me up, so be it. I'll just adjust and try and do something amazing to wow them and win the game if possible. But as I said, button shy with horse racing. I just had to have this game. Beautifully designed. Cards are fantastic. As you can see, the artwork on these cards are really fantastic. Clever, gorgeous artwork, great backs of the cards. If you like this sort of thing, you know, this is also very mobile. I've laid it all out here. Normally the hands of cards are in your hand. You can't see what the other person has. So really, if you are playing this at a restaurant or something like that, the really only table space you need is to put your bet down and for these thin little groups of horses to move. So it is very mobile. I hope you can get yourself a copy while it's still in print. If you like this, thanks for watching. See ya.